start with the adjective or the adjective. You know the adjective. Black. The word black being the adjective is the adjective. See, without understanding the number codes, mathematics, without the knowledge, for our people perish for the lack of knowledge. Without the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding. I wouldn't be able to discern and see the code, the message, the objective. And the objective, the objective, consumer, used with reference to a credit transaction, referencing to law, a credit transaction. Characterize the transaction as one, characters, numbers, the transaction as in one in which the party to whom credit is offered or extended is a natural person, and the money, property, or services which are the subject of the transaction are primarily for personal, family, or household purposes. The adjective. And the adjective or the adjective, black or colored. Colored is an adjective or an adjective. Which is the deceptive practices. You see the adjective, the part of speech. It's called parse. So you have to identify the parts of speech in a sentence, and grammar to resolve a sentence into the elements or to show the several parts of speech composing a sentence and their relation to each other by government or agreement. What did it say right there? 1913 Webster. What did it say? To analyze and describe grammatically. What did it say? Let him construe the letter into English and parse it over perfectly. As sham. 1913 Webster, the evolution or devolution of this word parse. So by identifying the parts of speech, the adjective or the adjective, by using mathematics, the knowledge, numbers, codes, this is the keys. You know, minor and major. So color being the adjective and being used as the noun is coloring. It's fiction, it's fraud, it's cap. Let me say the correct terms. Cap. You see black, you see in pink is an adjective. You see the adjective. Consumer, used with reference to a credit transaction. Characterize the transaction as one in which the party to whom credit is offered or extended is a natural person. And the subject, money, property, or services are primarily for personal, family, household purposes only. You see the adjective. So if it's not for family, personal uses, then it's for business. And they're going to assume it's for business. And it's going to get taxed like a business. Because the word black is an adjective or an adjective. I'm just looking for the word black. Looking for this word. I found it. You see black. So by black being the adjective, the adjective, that's considered as color. Fiction, deception. Because as them assuming that all property is for business purposes, it's considered as color, appearance, disguise, an apparent legal right. Because those are assumptions and presumptions, which are not based on facts. There's no real evidence, no certified evidence for that. So by unlocking and freeing yourself from the Matrix, like the movie Neo in the Matrix, you could be able to see the fraud. You could be able to see the fake, the cap. You can see things for what it really is and not for what it appears to be. This is no dream, this is reality. Say learning about the legal terms like color and objective in a credit transaction. And that's what it said, right? We just talking about this word black, Moor, Negro, African American, color. So according to AI summary, we talking about the adjective, the definition, consumer, I, the consumer, the adjective used with reference to a credit transaction. Referring to a credit transaction now. Consumer used with reference to a credit transaction. Whom credit is offered or extended. To characterize the transaction as one in which the party is a natural person and the money, property, or services are the subject. It say, are the subject of the transaction are primarily for personal, family, or household purposes. So their presumptions and assumptions is what we have to object to, because the adjective is the subject, which is the consumer, and the family, personal, household services or property and money and the money. Because in Title 15, business is United States citizens. So without objecting to that, because we're not getting paid dividends as a business, as a corporation, as an individual, which is dividend in individual, dividend, individual, so they could divide duality, individuality. So these things is being used to induce one into a contract without conspicuous or without full disclosure. Because the adjective consumer, which is the definition in Title 15, 1602, which is why we use the number codes to identify the fraud, the fake, the fiction, the deception, the trickery. Because it's the language that's being used on the notes, on the documents. The Latin and English words that's being used on the money, which is the subject. So by identifying the errors in the document, which are the adverbs, verbs, adjectives, pronouns, which is considered fictional communication, which induce one into a contract by using false, misleading statements which is the presumptions and the assumptions that's being made on record, because they're using foreign language, foreign codes, foreign communication, which the citizens is not comprehending. Us people, the businesses, the corporations that's operating so that's the objective. That's the motive. Because of the money, property, and services. Because, again, black is an adjective. There's no such thing as black people. There's no such thing as colored people. That's fiction. It's artificial people or persons, which creates color. The word color is adjective. So these words being used as adjectives, adverbs, verbs, is modifying the noun, which is the person, place, and the things that we carry around. So operating as persons, calling ourselves persons, being persons is considered as a corporation, an entity, a business. Which all businesses get taxed as a business, right? Which a lot of businesses don't pay taxes. A lot of property they get tax refund for because it's business property. It's for the business. The business meetings, how you could tax write it off. So if we're not getting our dividends as a business, then they are misappropriating the funds and stealing the money, the property, and the services. So either they have to give us rents due, or everything they doing is deceptive, misleading practices. Deceptive and abusive practices. Because the objective is the subject. Which is the number codes. That's why we use number 3. Subchapter 3 for all that. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Subchapter 3. Like Allen Iverson, number 3. I'm trying to, like Reggie Miller from the 3. You know how the judge hit the gavel 3 times? It's the number 3. 93. trying to whitewash the blackamoor, which is a hopeless and useless task. Because natural persons, what it says a consumer is a natural person, and not a person, not just a person, but a natural person. So by us consuming these things, it's not business consumption, because it's not saying business, it's saying consumer is a natural person. So we're not a business when it comes to consuming property for family, household purposes, personal use. You say use with reference to a credit transaction. Natural person is a living human being. Legal systems can attach rights and duties to natural persons without their express consent. So this word black, man, black woman, black people, black persons, colored people, colored woman, colored man, colored person, all that is considered an entity, a business, a corporation, artificial persons, because they're using these words referring to law, which is all deception, which creates an error in the system. And these errors are considered misleading statements, which creates deception, misrepresentation, or fraud, misinformation, disinformation. So by these errors still being in the system is what we have to correct. And a lot of these words that they using legally, you see that? Evil spirit. Evil spirit. Just a few words for the word black. So when I say we Moors, it's because the words say we Moors, not me regurgitating anything that anybody else said, but me actually doing my own research and finding what I need to find, discovering that we are Moors. You see black right there at the top. What it say? Adjective. The adjective, consumer. The adjective, black. So when I say we Moors, again, it's because of what the words say, not what I say, not what I came up with, not my opinion. You see more, you see in blue, archaic, black or more. You see black or more, you see in blue, Negro. You could chat GPT this, you could AI it. So by them using words like colored, black people, it's considered false, artificial, because man or black man, black is considered an evil spirit. So when I talk about the numbers, the letters, the number codes, identifying the fiction, the artificial intelligence in the notes and the documents that's being given, this is what I call the supreme mathematics. What's today's mathematics? Our people perish for the lack of knowledge. The knowledge is the mathematics to be able to identify the artificial, the fiction, the cap. And the cap is the adjective, consumer, used with reference to a credit transaction. Characterize the transaction as one in which the party to whom credit is offered or extended is a natural person. Not just a person, not an artificial person, but a natural person. So what's a natural person, Dami? What's a natural person? A natural person is a living human being. A legal system can attach rights and duties to natural persons without their express consent. The concept of natural person appears in business law and bankruptcy law. Don't hit the board, it's gonna boot you out. It's gonna kick you out the live. Don't hit the board. So I'm gonna put it up because we're talking about is a natural person. Consumer is a natural person. And the money, property, or services, which are the subject of the transaction, are primarily for personal, family, or household purposes. So when I say we natural persons, I'm talking about the consumer who has rights and duties. Legal systems can attach rights and duties to a natural person without their express consent. A natural person is a living human being. So by identifying a part of speech, which is called parse, in grammar to resolve a sentence into the elements. the number system, the number code, the knowledge, the mathematics. One going to assume and presume that us people are business, artificial persons who's operating in law. Just referring to law. Because the Social Security number is personal. You're supposed to protect the Social Security. That's one of the duties, to protect our personal property, which is the Social Security. So it's not supposed to be given out to any corporations or creditors. The adjective or the adjective, black or white, colored, Negro, American, African American, Indian, artificial, you see it right there, Act 6. Say, will us almost proclaim of life and their nationality and declare their independence. And we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part, the part of speech, the parse and parcel of this said government. And know that they are not white, black, Negroes, colored folks, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until the Emancipation Proclamation in 1865. Yeah, these motherfuckers gotta be robots. Oh, wow. You can learn something, just sit back. Because everything they're enforcing is considered color. Color of law. Which is no contract. You see the adjective, you see the adjective. I'm trying to think of another picture I got in here I could show you that, the coloring and all this shit. Because it's the language, it's the words, it's the communication. How we communicate with each other. It's the words that's being used. The supreme mathematics. Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. The 0 through 9 number system. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Culture, freedom. Which is the Moorish science. The code, mathematics, scale. the Moorish science. Because Christopher Columbus miscalculated. And the sovereignty is within the people. Etymologically, the word, of course, means superiority. We're speaking about the truth, the origin, etymology. Just a few extra words without trying to give the sauce, even though I probably already didn't put it out there. Because black right here is a noun. You see a Negro, a person whose skin is black. Now you see the business, the property, to make black, to blacken. You see blackamoor at the bottom, a Negro, a black man, who is an evil spirit, the devil. Just using the science. Who they tried to whitewashing the black man, the blackamoor, washing the blackamoor white. With this white being purity and superior, white supremacy. Just using the science, the word. Because Noah's prophecy cannot be justified, the enslavement of blacks or African American people. Excuse me, just looking for another word. So I'm gonna go back to the number codes, because this is where it need to be used in order to be able to see the fraud, to see the deceit, the deceptive, abusive practices by the debt collectors. When they are trying to collect on the property or capitalize, that cap shit. Because our people perish for the lack of knowledge. For the love of money is the root of all evil. For the love of money is the inducement in the industry of good men. You can't worship both God and money. So by the language on these documents and notes, is inducing the public, the people, us people, into these fraudulent contracts, which have errors in the contract, in the document, because black is an adjective. Because the adjective, again, the adjective is consumer, the adjective consumer, used with reference to a credit transaction, is a natural person. And the money, property, or services which are the subjects of the transaction, are primarily for personal, family, or household purposes.